you ever felt.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
This is a fascinating talk because it's like at different points in my life, like I've been exposed to ice baths for maybe 20 years. And the first thing is, as an athlete, is just for recovery from hard workouts or whatever. And then when you're young like that, it's also like to see who can be tougher inside the ice bath, right? It's like, and it kind of becomes thinking, I did 17 minutes or whatever and all that. And to where I had bad ideas when actual people were doing testing about what the efficacy and health protocols were for the best use of an ice bath. And, you know, what I find is you're tipping into hypothermia, or you're maybe not doing your tissues any favors by being in for 15 minutes or longer, something like that. And they're, now they talk about 15 minutes over the course of a week or something, or 12, something like that for optimal use. And so I use it in different ways now than I did before, but it's with the same thing, how is it that I want to use this body that I'm in to the most effective degree that I need to use it today? And that's different than it was 20 years ago, but it's still all the same tools are there. I just, especially like you get older, you don't have there's a slack line you have when you're young of resiliency, right? You can bounce, you can drink all night, and then you can work hard all day, and you can drink all night again. And like, you can work these both ends of the candle in ways that it becomes unsustainable, right? You can only do that for so long. And, or whatever, or even eating poorly, And so like at a certain point, especially as like an older athlete, like I think the first time I started competing in jiu-jitsu, I was 27 years old or something like that, or 28 years old. And then as an MMA fighter, I think both Keith and I had our fights on when we were 32, 33, their first pro fight.
First pro fight at 33?
Right? And so it's a different era back then, right? Even Rashad was, older than anybody. It's just like what it was. It's like, and the era before us, like the Dan Hendersons, the Randy Couture's, they brought in the ability because they had a strong skill set as, wrestlers, champion wrestlers, world champion, Olympians, that could carry them. Where now it's like in CrossFit, in the CrossFit world. At first, it was like Jason Khalipa could go ahead and compete against Chris Spieler. Jason's 225 pounds, Chris Spieler's 140 pounds wet, right? And they could be comparable because there's going to be different things, different workouts that merit his abilities a little more than his, and they can even out along the way. As the years went by in CrossFit, what you found is if you're not between 5'8" and 5'10" and 183 pounds, like you're outside the optimal range, you're not competing anymore. And I think that's what happened with all sports. You find out what the best spot to be in age-wise, recovery-wise, and all this. And the stakes are too high to compete outside of those bounds. Whereas, you have resiliency as a younger person, you're able to create the bounce back better. You're able to get into shape in a different way. But what I learned out of all that is like, you need to just stay in shape.
Yeah.
Like the biggest disservice I can do is to think that I'm going to, somehow be able to make up for lost time.
Sure. Yeah. Have this huge like pendulum swing on the off season or whatever between fights.
Yeah.
Interestingly, talking to a guy the other day that's kind of shared some of the MMA space. I don't know, maybe not to the level that you saw it, but lived it and breathed it as a professional fighter for almost a decade. I was, you think about that like constant, just not only just the fights, that's like the highlight, the 5 minutes, that we get to see, but it's like all the training consistently every single day, nonstop, like does so much wear and tear. And I had this like perception that, like a fighter, if they're 25, they're old anymore, right? For the fighting realm. And he's like, well, yes and no. He's like, you got to understand that like the way that people are training is completely different than we were training in 2010 or 2008. And we're not doing certain things in the way that we're recovering between trainings. And he's like, so we're elongating a fighter's potential career, So he's like, you're seeing people like getting into their 30s and kind of like, waning on the backside of their career. But he's like, they've maybe been fighting since they were 18, and which is far longer than I thought, to be honest with you. But
right.
I never.
I don't know if that's even true.
Yeah.
Because I look at guys, like I look at the longest running guys in the fight game that I know, and that would be probably Nate Diaz and Diego Sanchez.
How old's Nate?
I don't know,
Mid-30s?
mid-30s. And Diego, same, but in it since he's 18, I think was his first pro fight. And so that's a tremendous time to be at the spotlight at those levels that they've been playing at. And I don't think there's guys that are like that now. I think I heard recently that the average age of a UFC athlete is like, or not average age, average lifespan is like 18 months. Right?
18 months.
It's like, I can't name guys that are, like you talk about, like Israel Adesanya, and I saw him interviewed the other day, and he's like, well, I know I'm on the tail end of my career. He's early to mid 30s.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's not guys that are looking to fight into there's not that really anymore. And that's just because everything's gotten tied into, I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to pull up what all the stats are of current champions and their ages. But,
yeah,
you know, even like John Jones has now started young enough to where he's peaking, but he's not going to do a whole lot of fights when he comes back, I wouldn't think, you know?
He took a long time off, man. I don't know. That's, you know, I don't live and breathe in that world,
Yeah,
but it's always
same.
scary for me. It's like you hear about ring rust and everything, and I'm like, I just think about like my world. Like if I step away from what I did for 17 years, for 5 years, and then try and come back to it, there's gonna be things that like were just muscle memory for so long that it's like there's a couple glitches. You start, I forgot about this little misstep or something, and you guys are playing in a whole different
with your
caliber.
body.
Yeah.
It's different. I mean, in most realms, you look at what technology does and how it advances. I mean, you can't keep up with that. If you're out of it, you're out of it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the thing about like, I took, you know, talk to a lot of folks and they're like, I took some time off or I got off track. You hear it a lot, right? And it's cool, but you ought to know the price to getting off track is that you don't get back on track where you were. You get back on, the train is uphill.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get off track, you're on at a way different point, and everybody that you were with is far surpassed what your availability is for your skill set.
Because they've stayed with it.
It's just what it is. And so that resiliency is staying consistent. Like when you're talking about that in the gym, it fucking fills me up because that's the thing that I love. Like, you know, you talk about it and like it breaks you down. Yeah, there is that, but it gives you character. It builds discipline. It gives you the idea of what consistency can give you. And that brotherhood that happens inside of that, I've never seen it anywhere else. And it's the time that I look back on and I smile about a lot. Me and Jardine were talking the other day, and he's like, remember the first time we thought we'd fight in the UFC and then our money problems would be over? And then that, you know what I mean? And it's like you get these delusions as a young person or like these ideas, and it's better than it was. And then, God, imagine if we could get in the stunt world and then we get stunt jobs. Oh my God, and how excited you are going to, but it's like, that's the thing is that life keeps progressing. It builds on yesterday. And if you do yesterday well and pay attention to the details of what you're into right now, then that tomorrow will build successfully too, you know? And I used to live in the other way where I thought the other shoe's about to drop. This is all crash apart at any time. Not if I pay attention to what I'm doing right now.
Just be more
But
present.
I have to be aware all the time. Yeah.
So, you know, I want to take a step back real quick. I mean, you and I kind of share a mutual friend, Chacho Taylor, and I don't know if you referred to him as a rebel or but when I met him, he came on the podcast, he introduced me to himself to me as Chacho, and that's just what I call him. Yeah. And, you know, we've become so friendly, you know, off screen, off camera. And you know, I cherish the time that I get to spend with him. It's few and far between, but he's one of those guys that I look forward to it. Right. And so I was just saying a few minutes ago before we started recording that I'm in this, I don't know, this thing where I'm trying to get my life back. I just kind of woke up and, you know, I was 40 pounds overweight, and I was just at a what the fuck moment. Like, what are you doing, man? Where are you at? You're not present in life. You're not present in work. You're not present with your kids, you know, whatever the case. And, you know, Chacho sort of came into my life like at this moment, and I started, you know, pushing and pulling and a lot of these different ropes in my life. And, you know, and the other big part of that is I got sober, and, you know, it starts to really get clear. You know, some of these things you're like, you know, it sort of takes you back like, whoa, I can't believe that was happening. But he came on the show, make a long story short. And, you know, it's funny. I'd never met him. Guy sent me a reel from his, and I said, yeah, cool, I'll talk to him. He's got a really cool voice. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, it'll be fun. Like, I'm interested in goofy shit like that. So he comes on, and he's got his daughters with him, and they're sitting in the podcast studio. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. Hopefully you're good, because I'm going to go deep. And he's promoting his book, and he brings out the 12-man of, you know, Caveman Coffee, and it's sitting there the whole time, and we're 2 hours deep, and I'm like, what? And finally, I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? Like, what he's like, oh, dude, this is, this is my buddy's company, Tait. And, and so like, I had heard your name years ago, and it's obviously not a name that's super common. And so I just was like, Tait Fletcher. And he's like, yeah, and brushed it off. And I was kind of like, okay. So we start talking about that. And minutes later, like that was almost a 3-hour podcast. And we talked about a ton of stuff with his life and his book. But he said something that I took away from that episode, because there's a term that I don't use very often, especially with human beings. And he said it, and he goes, I love Tait. And he paused for a second. And the rest of the conversation was real smooth and rapid fire. Chacho was comfortable in most environments.
Totally.
And he paused when he said that. And I took away from that for a second, because that's a word, like when I say I love another human being, like you can love a moment, you can love a situation, but you love it in an instance, right? You love it in a different way. When you say that and it's genuine about a human being, when I hear people say it, it sticks out to me, like drastically. And so he said that, and I was just like, man, didn't really, in the moment we're having a conversation, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. And, so I started kind of like looking, who is Tait? How do you guys know each other? And then off camera, Chacho was telling me some things about how you guys kind of met. And so anyways, I see this like version of Tait Fletcher, like kind of online, and, with all the stuff with Mandalorian. And it's like weird. It's like I had kind of built this like preconceived thing of who, I get to see from an outsider's perspective, from just a random person in the world, of, where you are. And then I start kind of seeing you talk about some of your backstory. And then I hear something a few months ago, or maybe it was a few weeks ago, it may have been a podcast or a reel or something. And you started talking about some of your struggles, post-accident that you've gone through, that you're working through in this recovery. And it shattered that notion of what I thought you were. Right. It was like, you have this gigantic, like physical person, I don't know what he's 6'5", 6'3". Either way, it shattered that, and it like opened up this whole thing. I'm going, man, I clearly thought there was like this single lane of this person. Like you look at like where they're at in their life, and you go, man, what a career, or what a this, or what a that. Sure. And then you say one instance, and it's like, holy shit, you have no idea who anybody is, like off screen, behind what we get to see, or what people allow them to see. And it like, I had wanted to talk to you for a while, and we couldn't really pull it together, but I'm kind of glad in a weird way, in hindsight, that it didn't happen earlier. That it allowed me to see that reel, and kind of made me more, made it to where I wanted, like physically, to speak to you, because I was just so intrigued. Like, I can't believe I was so narrow-minded and thinking, okay, well, this is who Tait is, and this is what it is. Yeah, but
we take what we know, and then we paint a picture and go, oh, this guy's like this. Or I always trip out too. I feel like, God damn, Tait, you diminish people before you have any exploration in what they are. In the grandeur, I mean, humans are fucking fascinating, And it's like, I do that. I mean, I know just what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to, just especially for like the listening audience, watching audience, I kind of wanted to take a step back. For those of the people, that don't know you, don't know your history, myself included, I want to kind of take it back, however far you want to. But I would like to, because that reel kind of stopped. And I purposely, when I get the opportunity to talk to somebody, I kind of stop listening to, I don't look at them on Google. I don't search out podcasts, because I don't want to come in and I want to taint a conversation. Totally. I want it to be organic. I want it to be genuine. And when I heard you say that, I was like, all right, man, all bets are off. If Tait says we can interview, like, let's absolutely go for it. And when you said, yeah, it was like, okay, I want to know more. And like that reel like ended on you moving to Santa Fe. And I could tell that there was like something that like moved you here, or got you out of Michigan. And I don't know if we want to go back that far. I don't know how much time you got, but I just to kind of give people like a presence, because I think it blew me away to kind of hear that little bit of backstory. Because I had this like painted picture of what I thought you were. And
sure.
I don't know if that's good or
fair
bad.
Enough. Fair enough. I mean, it's what it is. If you're big and you look a certain way, it's like people are like, there's presumptions about what it is I'm seeing, right? And knowing that, it becomes, and it's like whatever it is. It's however it is that we think that we look. If you're a hot girl, people have presumptions about that, about your intelligence, about the way you are sexually, about everything. Like we make the grossest assumptions about people that we don't know at all, that we see visually, which we know is like maybe the least effective evidence that we can have in knowing something about a subject matter, right? And so I just have thought that a lot, and whether it's in the film business or whether it's in like wherever I've been, is like, I know I've got to present myself a certain way, because I'm perceived a certain way. So it's like a lot of that is like, I need to walk up with a smile because I don't want people nervous when you know what I mean? Or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to be able to hold a space of comfort and ease for people, that people feel safe around. There was a time in my life they didn't. And I liked that too, but you get a change in your life and you start to mature in your life. And I think somewhere in my 20s, I was like, I got real present to like little things, like how scary it is to be a woman in the world. Like, people talk, I was talking to a friend of mine about privilege, about that. And he goes, man, male privilege and this and that. What are people fucking talking? And I go, I get it. It feels shitty to have somebody saddle that on you. Like, because it seems like it's pointed at you. It feels that way. But I go, is it not true that we all have privilege? Different degrees for different people. And if I go out to dinner with my sister, we both end dinner and maybe I stay and she's got to leave early and it's dark out, but she's got all kinds of different things to consider before she walks to her car. Are her keys ready? Does she have her hand on her mace in her purse? Has she parked underneath a light? I don't think about anything. I just walk out to my car. I don't care where. Like I feel like if anybody could, that'd be a real problem for somebody. You know what I mean? It's like we don't have the same considerations. I never walk around in fear of being raped. And when I started thinking about like how heavy that really is, like I go, you need to cross the street when there's a woman walking alone that's coming and it's dusk. Like I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable or feel like, God, like I want to take that away. I want to erase that for people. You know what I mean? And like, that's just, I guess, like an example of that, like, how do I present myself? What does that look like? And, my history, I don't know. It's a colored history, it's been a colorful life and I'm grateful for every bit of it. I don't know what you heard. There was a thing that I had on my Instagram that was a link to my friend Ashley's podcast. I think it's called Lion Rock Recovery. Mm-hmm. And she does a lot of talk about that. And I said, well, let's talk about, this brain injury thing. And to catch your listeners up, I got a tremendous head injury. I've had a concussive life, right? First of all, and I had a real bad head injury in 2019. And I was on a set of a movie called Free Guy. And it was a stunt that was set up stupid and I went sideways and I was unconscious for 5 minutes or something, and no brain bleeds, no fractures in my skull, thank God. One of the things was, that ever since then too, I go, man, it's an asset to be strong. They're like, it's a good thing that you had a big, thick neck and that you're like, this kills people. You're hitting the ground at 30 miles an hour backwards to your head. And so what happened was post-concussive syndrome is what they call it. And it started slowly. At first, I was able to go to dinner that night with my friends. And then the next day I was supposed to fly back to LA from Boston. And I thought, I don't know how to pack my bags. I don't know how to leave this hotel room. Like just simple things I was unable to do. And my friend Antal helped me a lot. And I got back into LA and I started going to hyperbaric chambers and I started trying to get help and the hellscape that it is to try to get any kind of help in America is tough. Like I've had to go out of the country to get stem cells and to do hyperbarics even. They say that doesn't help head injuries and because the FDA controls all this and how much you can charge becomes a problem. And so they said, unless you have a wound, like a burn victim, you can't be in hyperbarics. There's no insurance for it. You're out of pocket, like the whole thing. And so a lot of that podcast was about my recovery from that and where I'd come from, and I think, and I came from Michigan in maybe 92 and ended up in Santa Fe, New Mexico at a college out here is what brought me here to begin with. And then as time went on, I started working with kids in town and my life changed. I had a huge alteration that happened in my life that is either you're going to go down this road or you're going to find a new road, you know, and I felt like I beat up that road pretty bad. I was looking at 25 years in a federal prison, and, you know, I'd been strung out for a couple of years at that point. I'd been trying to stop drinking, but I couldn't stop. I was like, you know, in that spot where you're kind of drinking against your will for a couple of years. And when all those things shifted for me, you know, my life shifted. They're like you know, if you don't become a different man, you're going to create the same kind of issues that you've always had. And so I just got open-minded to being wrong. I got open-minded that like maybe everything that I thought was how life should be fought for and surmounted was wrong. And that change in like a psychic shift, if you will, of like, how do you view life? Is it, you know, are you up against it and you're trying to just curate this and not get hurt? Or is it there to be supportive of you? And what does that look like? And what would it look like to be a part of that? And so everything started changing my life. I found jiu-jitsu, and that really saved me in a ton of ways. And then the you know, camaraderie of the fight world was tremendous. And that came about, you know, I guess in my late 20s by that time, you know, and it was just like, people look at my stuff, you know, I go to these conventions and stuff. I play a character on The Mandalorian, or 2 characters. But I've been in this film business since I guess 2000 is the first time I did a movie. And then I did that because I was working as a bouncer at a nightclub here in Santa Fe. And Master P and all those guys came into the nightclub and they go, "Hey, we need some big white boys for this film we're doing out at the prison." And I go, "Bet," you know? And so me and a few friends went out and I got a part in it and worked in it for a month, and I was like, cool. And it was dope, you know, and I could do it and still go to work because they were filming in the daytime. And then I'd started wrestling at that. I used to stick fight, right? I used to work with Arlen Sanford, who is one of the founding members of the Dog Brothers, which is a international stick fighting brotherhood. And they would fight on the equinoxes twice a year in Hermosa Beach and in a park. And so a bunch of people would circle up in lawn chairs and just come with 6-packs or whatever and watch, you know, 15 or 25 guys fight. And it would be like, "Hey, you want to fight next?" And we'd go, "Okay, we're going to go next." And then you'd get on a list, and it's like, and you could fight as many times as you wanted that day. And we'd fight against guys with different weapons. You know, Arlen fought guys with chains and with bats and with bow staffs and 2 sticks and one, you know, all types of things, you know. And so you learn about things in that time, you know. You learn about pain. You learn about when do you address pain. He's like, you can address pain right now, but your next moment you're knocked out. So you can go ahead and go, "Oh, that was a good shot," but you better stay focused. And so it really honed my awareness. It did things I didn't expect. Fighting did with sticks. And I grew a lot, and I fell in love with it. And then I met a guy that was in Brazil for a few years, and he came back to Santa Fe, and he was a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he was a champion down in Brazil, won the states. He was a real go-getter. Named Alberto Crane. He's got schools in LA right now. And I started training with him, and I go, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Because I got arm locked like, I don't know, 4 times in a minute. I was 260 pounds. This guy's 150 pounds, and I'm on top of him, and I was baffled. I was like, I don't know how this happens.
Yeah.
And then you can do 2 things at a time. You can go, "This is silly, dudes wrestling dudes and whatever," and you can minimize it and diminish it. Or what happened for me is I got fascinated. I go, I thought I was tough. I've got no idea how to move. I've got to know more. And so Alan, a guy named Amal Easton that owns Easton Jiu-Jitsu up in Denver, really changed my life and opened my eyes towards combat sports. So I started training all the time, went away from stick fighting because one of the first things that you attack with a stick is your hands. It's the first part of your body that meets me. So you break your knuckles or they get swollen up and you can't grab a gi or whatever. Anyway, I start competing all over the world with jiu-jitsu. And that's where I meet Chach. And Chach comes in and we're at a fight, I think up in Colorado, and he's got a camera. He was always into audiovisual stuff. And so he's got a camera and he's following Alberto around. I go, I don't know, whatever. And he's so fucking home. And he's huge. He's a monster, right?
He's a big dude.
I mean, Chach I'm big. And I go, Jesus Christ, Chach. He's huge and strong and able. He's the most dexterous and athletic guy that I know. It's amazing. Anyway, and I go, whatever, I'm doing this thing and you don't do jiu-jitsu. Like, I don't really know you. Once I start doing a thing, I'm like, if you don't do this, that's cool, but like it's a different lifestyle, a different diet, it's different everything. And I don't fuck with you. And so I don't know you at all. And so he's following us around with the camera for a while. And then I was like, yeah, he boxes and this and that. And anyway, it turns out Chach is the first guy that teaches me to jump rope, teaches me how to use my jab. You know, we become really good friends. And he's just the most gracious and giving person that I know. And a great father. He was a dad to Diamad and to Cisco at that time. And to watch him curate those relationships, I was just in awe. And I was in awe about how he did it all with nothing, right? You know, and I knew where he came. I knew everything about him. And I've known him for, you know, over 20 years now. And I'm in awe as much today as I always was. He's a phenomenal human. It's not even one of those humans where you're like, if everybody were like that, it's like, it's impossible that you could be like that. Yeah. He's one of the greatest men I know. And his brother also a tremendous asset to the world. And to see where these guys come from and what they do with it is amazing. So anyway, meet Chach and we start our road there together. And we ended up, you know, he and my friend Marcos Aragon, who he'd grown up with, they started a gym called Undisputed here in Santa Fe. And it was kind of a boxing gym. And then I would come back from fights, and I was living in LA mostly that time. And I would teach jiu-jitsu when I got back. And I just loved being in the gym with those guys. And we just kept that going. And Undisputed still runs today. My friend Lorenzo runs it. And he's been a great friend also for 20 years. And then one of my black belts, Ruben Rivera, runs the jiu-jitsu and the Bang Muay Thai. And that's still, it's a dope thing to look back at, to go, we built this thing and it still goes on without us. Yeah. You know, that it's got power and sustainability. And so the fight world was a big part of my life for all those years, you know, for the early 2000s. I start bodyguarding Joe Rogan. During that time, I meet Eddie Bravo working at 10th Planet. And that's my main jiu-jitsu fight gym. And then I come back to Jackson's for camps. And by like 2009 or something like that, I was doing bodyguard work all over. And I hated it. It was like one of those things where like you start it and you're like, oh, this is dope because it's cool. And then you're like, this is a prison that you don't get up when you want. You don't go to the movies you want. You don't go to the restaurant. Everything's great, but you're living somebody else's life. Sure. And I thought, man, I need more agency in my life again. You know, and so I moved forward with that idea, and I don't really know where it's going to go. And then this guy that's an X Games athlete, he walks into my gym. I'm teaching jiu-jitsu. And a couple weeks later, he goes, I heard you got a SAG card. I heard you were in a movie or something. I go, oh, yeah. And I told him about the thing I did with Master P. And he goes, who ran that? And I go, this guy, Keith Willard. And he goes, rad. He goes, he's in my group. He's in Brand X Stunts. And I go, no shit. And I go, that's cool. Small world. He goes, yeah, there's only like 30 of us in it. And I go, wow, that's dope. And he says, you want to be in this movie, Paul? It's about an alien going across the desert with Simon Pegg. And I go, sure, man. And so I worked a couple nights for him and thought, cool. And then a month or so later, he asked me to go to Detroit to film Red Dawn. And I go, and I'm trying to make money to keep the doors open at my gym. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm trying to have a real high standard of both movement and of the space that we're in and curate all that. And it costs money. And so I'm going to make money to pour it into this other thing and trying to get students at the time, all that stuff. And I'm horrible at it because a student comes in and they're like, hey man, I really want to train jiu-jitsu, but I just don't have it. I'm like, dude, if you want to train, come. Like, yeah, and I bring people, you know what I mean? And I'm that idiot. And not noticing that like the same kid is going to the bar 3 times a week, spending $80 a week at the bar that could easily pay for a whole month of jiu-jitsu, like all that stuff, right? And so then other people came in to help me, and I got people to help coach, and I start to work and film more, and I start to run after that a little bit. And you know, a few weeks ago, I was at a comic book convention or whatever, go there and sign and all that stuff, and this kid's going, God, what a career you've got. Mm-hmm. And it made me stop. I was like, I never knew that I had a career. What I had was the next job. Yeah. What I was only good at doing was curating the day. I wasn't forming to get somewhere with it. I was trying to do what I got asked to do today well, and the guy that hired me for that thing be happy that he hired me. You know what I mean? Those were my only objectives. And inside of that, I built a history. And I go, God damn, I guess you're right. You know, it is pretty dope. And that's still the way today. And so people ask, like, how'd you get X, Y, or Z? I had a thread of interest and I pulled the string and I followed it to the end. you know, and I tried to do it and serve it the best way I could all through the end. And I think that's what a life is, you know, and I'm glad that I did it that way. There's other people that are like, you should go to school and you should do this and you should, and maybe so. And I don't know what that would look like, but I do know that the threat of that, of not doing what you love and maybe doing what you ought to do or what seems safe, is that maybe you bought yourself a life that you're not really into, or that you feel resentful about because you didn't make the choice. You did it under these other conditions.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for better or worse, you know, here's me and Chach out here just rolling the dice, hoping the best works out and trying to serve the thing the best way we can, you know, maybe more intentional now than before, you know. I mean, you know, Keith and I have been working on making our own movies now. And, you know, because again, the agency that you have, it wanes in anything unless you own the thing that you're doing. Like when I opened the gym and I could direct it how I wanted, God, that was freedom, because it could create all the gym. Like when I was a kid, you couldn't have a kickboxing under the same roof as jiu-jitsu, under the same roof as where your physical training was. Those were all separate things. And it wasn't until maybe, I don't know, I think they got popular, maybe Extreme Couture came out and made something that was sort of like that. But unless you had backers and money and all that, there was none of that. But that's what I did here with Undisputed. Like I was like, this is what I want. And then, of course, you're teaching every class then. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because there's not all those skill sets around, and you can't possibly pay people that have those skill sets to do this thing. So it was like, you know, labor's of love, man, that I'm fucking proud of, and that I'm glad that we took the time to do. And knowing also that all that stuff is a beta test. It's all school for me. Whenever I take my hat off, throw it over the fence and go, now I got to go get my hat, it's like a lesson for me in how to move through life more efficiently and maybe more delicately, you know, maybe more in a way that has more efficiency, you know? And I think that's kind of where we're at now in a lot of ways, is like the last thing spoke to the next thing. And yeah, now of course we're making our own films. Yeah. And so I'll be, you know, in this next month, I think I'll shoot 3 things with 3 different friends that have written their own stuff, that got crews together, that got funded to get that because of what they merit in the sphere that we're in, kind of, and have proven themselves, and we got a history of that, and I think that's where freedom is. If there's any at all left in this goddamn world, it's in being able to build and create. Because if you haven't created it, you don't own the thing, you know. And I just push everybody to, you know, create. You're not going to be able to do that from day one. You got to learn all the crafts first. And so maybe you have 20 years of that, but always have it in your head that I want to, you know, create in this sphere. And also, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe when you're 22, you can create that and bang it out. And maybe maybe you are one of those special ones, a Justin Bieber that can do that and just blow up and not, you know, learned every instrument the way Prince did or something like that. But it doesn't make it any less vital, you know. I
think there's so much value though in the process. Like, and that's what, like, a lot of people, I mean, hey, we want instant gratification. Sure. Everybody would love for it to happen, but in a weird way, you know, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, you know, you stop thinking about the past, because that's just going to be a depressive state. Stop thinking about the future and just be present, and just be glad that you have the opportunity to work on the path and curate that, because that's all you can actually control. I mean, like, to look back, I was talking to my son the other day, and had somebody tell him, like, his whole dream is to be a soccer player. I'm like, yeah, that's a slim chance, but you know what? If that's your dream, like, fucking A, chase your dream. I mean, that seems crazy, but I'm not gonna be a father that doesn't foster it. Right. You know, but the reality is what I told him, and I don't really share this to a lot of people, is like, if I were to look back and pinpoint, okay, should I have done this in my life? Should I have taken that full ride football scholarship to Nebraska Kearney and went and done it? Sure. Maybe I'd be here. Maybe I'd be here. Maybe I could in what ifs, like, forever. All day long. But
what is the most important thing that's present. The what is. Yeah. You know, somebody put this on me, and I don't shut up about it now. They go, you know, the etymology of the word coach. And I thought, I'm smart. I've studied Greek and Latin. I know some things. And I go, I'm stumped. I don't know. They go, it's not that old. It's stagecoach it comes from. Really? Dope. I go, that's cool. And he goes, what's the coach do? And whether it's a football coach or a stagecoach, what's it do? Mm-hmm. It picks you up where you're at. Not where I wish I was. Not where I used to be. Not where I wish I was going to be. Not where I tell girls I am. It picks me up where I'm at. And then if it doesn't know that location because I'm confused about it, I can't get picked up. There is no teacher present. You know, the teacher appears when the student is ready. It's the same thing as that coach.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm honest without an ego about who I am and what my abilities are, I can't proceed.
Yeah.
It's impossible. It's like I use the analogy of like, maybe I used to be able to squat 450 pounds. And if I put 450 pounds on the bar right now and it sinks me right to the floor because I'm delusional about what I am, is that helpful? Like, I can't go anywhere from there. I have to be, you're a 135 pound lifter now, or whatever the thing, you know what I mean? You have to be actual about it. And I just thought that's such a powerful metaphor for all of this. It was like, and where you are is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best place to be.
I think that's what so many people like. I wish that if you could just share one thing with everybody, is like, just because you're here, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that you always have to stay here. Like, you can move, you can better yourself, you can learn more, you can do whatever you want to do that gives you fulfillment. But this moment isn't the worst thing, right?
Yeah.
You're here. You're actually able to be in this moment.
And that's confidence.
That's a
gift.
gift.
It's confidence.
Yeah.
It's like the only people that I know that were really happy with that, I knew kids, there's a couple kids in my neighborhood, and they're like, fuck that, why would I want that? I got this right here.
Yeah.
Why would I want that Ferrari? I got a Pinto right here. Like, this thing gets me, like, and there, I didn't know the power in being just exuberantly happy with what you had. I always thought, man, if I had that other thing, this would be going better. If I had, so now guys I work with and shit, I pray, I hope you get all the pussy, all the money, all the job, the car. I hope you get it all in spades real quick. I hope you get it fast so you can find out that's not what you lack. That's not what's missing, man.
Yeah.
You know? And to get into that present and go, okay, if I'm supposed to, by the time I'm 12-year-old, know how to speak Spanish, flamenco dance, move like Bruce Lee, what does everybody do? You either start pretending or you start working. And we already know what the pretending guys look like. And so I just thought, fuck, you better start moving the dial somewhere. Where can you be useful to your community? Oh, the more broad my skill set is, right? The more useful I can be. Who gets paid more? The guy that's more useful. If I just have a screwdriver, I can use that for one thing. If I got a multi-tool, because I've been adept at using pliers and knives and like, man, I'm more like, and so just in that kind of way, you know, I like talking to people about like, how could I get an extra job? How could I make some more money? Develop yourself.
Yeah.
It's the number one thing. Guys ask about acting. They're like, I heard this guy and he was a kid from South Central and he was like, man, I don't, you know, a lot of my traumas, I don't want to treat that because that's where I get my inspiration from. I go, first of all, you're an extra.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not even really paid to be. So, and secondly, how dare you? Because the fact is, no matter how young you are, there's going to be people coming behind you that are going to look to you and that are going to need your help. And if you're not trying to heal yourself and you're not trying to develop yourself, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You know, this is the way we evolve. We already have technology that evolves beyond what we have advocacy for. It rips our humanity apart. If we're not trying to evolve our own humanity in the deepest way possible, anybody coming behind us is fucked. There's no chance, you know? And so I don't know. I think the number one thing, no matter what your job is to look to that. How do I heal my old hurts? How do I get into a place where I can right my old wrongs so that I can walk forward fresh without anything hanging on me? You know, that I can look anybody in the eye anywhere. How do I do that? You know, how do I walk with integrity? What's honor look like to me? You know, I had this lady and she says, you know, you got a lot of perceptual values. Like you perceive yourself to have these values, like you have these high standards, but do you have any actualized values? And I go, I don't know the difference. I don't know what you mean. And she says, you know, honesty is maybe a thing that's a value of yours, but are you that way all the time? Is that actualized in your life? And those things are important questions to ask all the time, where I go, where could I do better? You know, there's always a place to do better. There's no resting on my winnings. You know what I mean? Because the new day brings a new set of troubles. Anyway, I think that for me, it's like I have to be a seasoned beginner is what one of my heroes talks about, you know? I have to be a seasoned beginner. I have to go with fresh eyes every day of what I can learn and how I can get better at whatever it is I'm doing. And if I have one idea in that and look to your excellence in something and learn from you in that way, and then give it away behind me, I feel like that's how I keep the flow of life going. And for me, that's how I stay out of misery, right? And that's all. I mean, what else am I looking to do? I'm looking to have a life that I can smile about in the present moment.
Sure. When you first started, when you came to that, I don't know if I want to lack of better terms, a realization that that you were kind of struggling after that accident, and you know, because it kind of in that a little bit that I heard, it sounded like you kind of didn't really fall into it overnight. It was like you came to the realization that it had kind of been layer upon layer upon layer upon layer.
My mom
and then it
helped me
hit
with
you.
that.
And what was that like? Because I mean, I feel, and I've talked to a lot of guys that I revere, you know, Chacho being one, like just for reference, because we spoke about him. He's massive, big dude, right? He's like a teddy bear. You could hug him, you know, he's full of love. But even him, like sharing the fact that like it's hard to tell somebody that I'm struggling and I can't beat this demon on my own. I'm supposed to be. I'm a pillar of my family. I'm the leader of this pack. I'm supposed to be the strong one. And we just bottle and bottle and bottle and bottle, and eventually it's going to break, and we're going to break down. And or you sit there and you realize, man, I'm not myself, and I forgot who the fuck I was.
Right.
You know, and so I'm just curious to know
that second part really rings true for me.
What that was like for you, man, because you know, going back to how I opened this up is like, yeah, I mean, well, you were a leader in your community, literally in the fight world. I mean, I've heard, you know, I was never even, I didn't become aware that you were a fighter. Actually, I heard your name the very first time from a story that Ari Shafir was sharing. and you know, call
it
crazy.
About a strip club?
I don't know, but you know, it was the thing about it is I could see that, you know, whether it was a reciprocal type relationship or not, it's kind of irrelevant. But I could see that whatever you did gave him immense joy, and that story like impacted him, right? Yeah. So it's like I go back to, it's like you were a pillar, like with the gym, with all these other things, and then all of a sudden you're met with this this demon of like, this, I can't fight this on my own.
First of all, I love Ari so much. We traveled a bunch together, and we'd just sit and chop it up like this pre-pod. I mean, and we would. What a beautiful dude. But so a lot of concussions in my life, and that I just walked through. I mean, after a stick fight once, I remember laying on the mats in jiu-jitsu. Whenever I'd lay in my guard, just like drunk bed spins, and I was like, "Fuck, I can only play on top."
Yeah,
right. And so for the next month, I demanded it, like. And that's what I would always do in training anyway. I would demand, you know, like Eddie Bravo for a while. He's like, you play good on top. He goes, your guard sucks. Why don't you just demand, like earn the sweep then. Earn whatever it is. Start from your back all the time. And so, you know, you got to put yourself in bad positions so you can create a better day down the road. It might suck today, and you might get burned up by other guys that shouldn't normally be cooking you, but it'll pay off in the end. But to your question, I was done. You know, when you said you become kind of, I don't exactly know how you said it, but with head injuries, you become a stranger to yourself. You become a stranger inside your own body, and it becomes so confusing that you got to go. And I couldn't hang on anymore. And I was talking to a friend of mine named Feng Chao, and he's a Chinese guy that I knew from the Comedy Store that would always just joke and play, and it was COVID times, and he calls me up and says, "What's going on?" And I said, "You know, nothing. I just went." And to put it in scope, like after I hurt myself and I got back, I dumped everything in LA, and I just came back to the mountains in New Mexico, and I just need to be quiet. I need to be. Sun hurt me. Like I would go into a psychic. I would start sobbing and fall to my knees with the sun. A motorcycle go by, it would obliterate my psyche. It was horrible. So I couldn't go outside. If I did go outside, I'd have a big hoodie on, I'd have glasses on, and I would look at the floorboards, because even if we're just going 10 miles an hour and I'd look up and I'd see a new tree came in the car, and there was too much new information, and I would spiral again. It was, I was really fucking hurt. I had neurogenic tremors. I'd stutter all the time, and I would sob for, cumulatively probably an hour, a couple hours a day, like deep blubbering snot, like that kind of tears, which would just come. I wouldn't know why or whatever. So I just sat on the couch a lot with my dog, Hank, and then I started getting help. Meredith and Annie moved over and started helping me there, and Annie was there, and those dogs would just love me. And then I would sit inside all day. And And Feng Chao asked me, he goes, what are you doing lately? And I said, well, I just riding around the truck with my pistol, looking for the courage to shoot myself in the chest. And I'm just watching some Netflix now, going to make some food. What are you up to? And he goes, Tait, he goes, because our friend Brody Stevens had killed himself like the year before, 2 years before. And we talked about, everybody, every well-wishing motherfucker out there is like, if only he'd have called me and I could have told him after I haven't told him I cared about him in however fucking long, how much I cared about, or whatever, people's own arrogant delusion about how they're going to help somebody that they're not really connected is insane. You can't call somebody that's in that state. They're alone in a way that you can't get in. And he goes, and he knew that. And he says, I know you won't call me the next time you're riding around like that, but the next time you ride around with a idea about shooting yourself in the chest, know that Feng Chao is in your chest with you. And it changed the vision of how I saw that, And anyway, my friend Dozer, he called me the next day and I, told him the same thing. It's just, that's all that's going on in my life. And my life feels like a complaint. It feels, and that's another reason I got to go, because I'm not that guy.
Like you felt like you were complaining to
all
people
the time.
when they were
How you
asking
doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You were putting your burden onto somebody else.
And I didn't want to be, I'd never been like that. I've been the guy that gets rid of excuses, that gets complaints out of the way. Let's fucking get positive. Let's move forward, and so the self-loathing is tremendous. Tell Dozer the same thing. And then 15 minutes, I get Lisa Dorian sends me a text. She says, you got to call Shane right away. I go, it's weird. Lisa's I didn't even put together the conversation with Dozer. And her and Lisa and him were real good friends. And rest in peace, Dozer. He just died last week of a heart attack, trying to get his life better. He'd found himself 60 pounds overweight, smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day and all the things. Yeah, I can't wait to see him again one day. Anyway, I called Shane, and Shane was at a place called Brain Treatment Center, and he was with the owner of the place, and Shane's a big wave surfer. And so he was like, he'd had brain fog in the afternoon, and he'd had debilitating kind of physical expressions that he was like, maybe I could get this better. And so he went to this place, and they shoot magnets in your head. They try to reorganize the wavelengths in your head. They get distorted when you get head injury. And so I make an appointment to go there, and I'm going to go there in a couple days. And my mom comes in and says, I'm so glad you got hurt. And I go, you got to tell me more, Mom, because this is fucked.
What do you mean? What does she mean? So glad you got hurt.
And she said, because I've been watching you darken for the last 10 years. I've been watching this psychic spiral of yours, and I couldn't put a finger on it. I just thought maybe he's depressed today, or wow, he's a little irritable, or like all these things that are just like, because head injury looks like that. It looks like character flaws. It looks like, you're occurring differently to people around you. But for you, your perception is tilted. And the way I view life is only through my perception. So to me, I'm unaware of these things really until it gets so dark down the path that I'm not myself and I got to go. I feel like that's happened to our soldiers. I feel like it happens to football athletes, to combat athletes. And the head injuries don't seem to show up in terrible psychic ways until 10 or 15 years after the injuries. And so now we're starting to see that in a lot of, first generation MMA fighters. We're seeing it in a lot of guys from the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and previously. We see it in world wrestlers in the, Vince McMahon's world. We see it from all these ways. And we see it even worse with guys that are then prescribed drugs. We give these guys that are blown up in steel fucking emboldened trucks that hit an explosive on the ground. And we give them all the VA guys I talked to, they're on 40, 50 different kinds of drugs. So it's all supportive of big pharma to make these guys then get in a place where they're strung out on benzos and narcs, where they got to kill themselves anyway. I mean, and that's where brain injury leads. Mm-hmm. So anyway, she's noticing that in me and going, I'm so glad that you got hurt, because you would have never looked into it, because it's an invisible injury.
Yeah.
You don't even realize that you're afflicted with something. You just feel like, you feel like a pussy, or you feel like you feel like a thing you can't name, but it ain't you, and it's time to go. And so I'm really glad I got hurt too. I'm glad for every knock I ever took. It made my character what it is, but at the same time, I'm super glad that there's healing on the other side of it. As far as the thing about being vulnerable or reaching out for help, There's nowhere to reach. I didn't have a problem. Like if I'm sad, if somebody dies, I'll cry. I'll tell my brothers I love them. Everybody around me knows how I feel. I'm vulnerable and I'm available. And like with Chach, it's like, you know, I lived a big portion, a couple decades of my life in a room full of killers, in a room full of guys that are so skilled at violence that they're impervious to a lot of it, right? They're at those kinds of levels of things. They're the nicest, kindest, gentlest people. You know, you hear the quote, it took a lot of violence to get this gentle. Mm-hmm. You know, when somebody is that sure and that confident, we're just here to serve and be helpful. It may seem dangerous to people around us. It may seem all kinds of ways, but by and large, the guys that I know that are highly skilled, the Tim Kennedys of the world, the Cha-Cha Taylors of the world, they're there to be helpful to the people around them. They're there because they know that we're surrounded, 95% of us are the weakest scrubs of fucking the world that are in America that are inculcated with this idea that you can call somebody and they're going to come help you. Yeah. And then for those of us that have built ourselves differently, we know that those people need help and there's compassion and there's pity in that. I mean, so I feel like as far as like those guys getting hurt and reaching out, now it's a different thing for if you're in the military and you say, hey man, I'm depressed or I got knocked and this happened. They don't do that because it's their job. And so if I'm if Tim's a leader of men in that way and he comes and he says that, they don't ever put him out in the field again. Because if it comes back on them, they'll go, you put out a guy that had head injuries and so they can't even admit it. Our system, the football industry didn't even say, the NFL didn't even say that football might cause head injuries until like 2015. Yeah. We're so behind in taking responsibility in this country for anything because people are so afraid of being sued or being culpable in some way that we throw these people away. And it's a rotten conversation that we have. I mean, it's the same conversation. I mean, and then dumb people are pulled by media. I don't even want to say dumb people, but anyway, are pulled by media in one way or another that a guy like Kaepernick goes, there's horrible things that happen in neighborhoods that I live in, that friends of mine live in, and I'm going to take a knee for that to maybe talk about it. He talked about it with a guy that was a special forces operator before about what's the best way that I can show a protest. He goes, when we protest, we take a knee. And so he's hearing about that from a guy that's a decorated veteran. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing that the media does is says, Kaepernick hates the soldiers. It's like, it doesn't even make sense. It's not even in the same argument. Yeah. We're talking about an industry in the police industry where you have built in, what do they call it? Qualified immunity. You have built in measures that are built to take care of these guys so that they're not held to a crazy standard where people that aren't on the street having to make those decisions don't understand. But also what that does is it makes them impervious to taking responsibility for when they're wrong. And they seem to be wrong a bunch also. And so to not be able to look at ourselves, to not be able to look at my own darkness and go, how do I clean it up, like I said earlier, so that I'm not stepping on the toes of those around me, so that I'm not fearful about the guy I'm about to meet, so that I don't have a bunch of garbage that I've done to people that's hanging on me. I've cleaned it up to the best of my ability. What kind of person am I if I'm carrying all that around? Well, what kind of person, what kind of industry is a industry like the police industry if we can't ever look at it and go, hey, maybe we should clean stuff up around here, which is what he is doing, right? Mm. And so when we look at that, we get into darkness. You get into sick societies. That's a sick system that we get in, and that cancer grows. And I feel like in this day and age, what's happening is that, the same three companies own all of the news. They own 80 some percent of the S&P 500. Bill Gates owns 90% of the farmland and doesn't want cows anymore. He wants to sell his cancer burgers. And so we're in this place where we're all owned and we're all at odds with one another. And nobody can take care of themselves. And so now more than ever, it's like, you got to pirate your life back was the motto of Caveman Coffee was, you've got to look at these people are not here to help you. I've been knowing that pharmaceutical companies were going to hurt me since I'm a little boy, and they say, you should get on these pills. Well, what if these pills don't work? Well, then we have these other pills that work. I go, you don't even know how those are interacting with you. This is science? You're just pretending? Like, this is insane. And then you see, from the heart industry, from all the different industries, I've been in the recovery industry for a long time. You start seeing people in the 90s, they started going, we need to give you multi-diagnoses so that we can give you pills. And then that can be offset by pharmaceutical companies that will start to pay treatment centers and insurance companies so that they can have this added new benefit of here's some new customers that you have. We're the only country in the world besides New Zealand that allows pharmaceutical companies to advertise on television.
Yeah, that
right?
blows me away.
I mean,
every time I hear
we're in all these plays where if you are believing your government, God bless your sweet little heart, but you're a demented motherfucker and you shouldn't vote. I mean, it's insane. It's an insanity that we're in. And so I'm down in Mexico getting hyperbarics. I had a stroke last October. That maybe had to do with these head injuries too. And I was woke up paralyzed. Half my body was paralyzed.
Jesus, Tate.
I don't really talk about this at all. I don't know that I have ever before. But anyways, that happened. And then, at 1 PM, by 11, like my shit came back and I was like, okay. And they said, we want to keep you for observation. I go, I don't know. What are you going to observe? Like, am I going to die or am I at risk? No. If I get my heart rate up, is that? No. I go, then I got to go. Otherwise, I'm sitting here just thinking about this. And they said, well, we got to do a echocardiogram or something like that. And I go, bet. Well, then I'm about getting the work done. Let's get it done. Let's do that, And so this is at the tail end, really, of a lot of brain health stuff that I've been doing and I've been conscious of, because I have to take care of myself because my resiliency was broken. My container, my vessel that I carried myself was shattered. So it took like 5 years to rebuild that, really get into a place where I could be solvent and feel like I could be in the world as a normal person again. And then boom, I wake up paralyzed, right? And then he goes, no, you'll probably be fine, but we can't do the echocardiogram today because it would be at another facility and you can set it up. I think in December they have open. I go, bro, it's October. I go, I'm out of here. So I went to work that day. I got in a gunfight with Cole Hauser and rode a horse into town and all that. And that night it was a trip, I get ready to go to sleep that night and I started thinking about all these things. Like, what's your life look like? Because you woke up paralyzed today. This morning, you woke up paralyzed. How wild is that? It was wild. It's wild to think of. And then I go, well, that means you could wake up dead tomorrow. That means that right now, what you're thinking, Tate, could be your last conscious moments.
That's fucking deep.
Wild, right? And you're going to go to sleep in a little bit with this in your head. And I thought, that is wild. And then I thought, that'll be all right. I'm okay, And I said, except there's two things, man. My books aren't balanced. My books aren't quite balanced. There's these two people that I'm not right with. And so I went after that and I sought to get right with those people for, the last bunch of months. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's what struck you when you think you wake up dead. It's not how much money you get. It's not what's in the driveway. It's nothing. Are you right with the people that you've loved and that have loved you in this life? Mm-hmm. And is everybody aware of what time it is? And that's what mattered, is cleaning those things up. And then, anyway, to speak to my point where I was going with it, I go, because now I've got brain injuries and I've got a stroke and I know how helpful hyperbaric chambers are. And I go, there is one right at the hospital here. I know there is. And so I call and they go, if you don't have a wound, you're not coming from the wound center, you can't come here. I go,
like they don't allow it or it's just not covered by insurance?
No, you can't come here. The FDA won't allow it, so that could maybe make us culpable and you could sue us if you're here for a thing that this thing's not ascribed for. Mm-hmm. And so my friends, Scotty Nelson and Ed Clay, God bless their hearts, they're both OGs from the Jiu-Jitsu Mafia, which, again, saves the day. This thing that I poured my life into, man, it's paid me back more dividends in not just my character, but my friendship circles. The guys that are there are the best fucking people in the world. They know what hard work is. They know what fucking function and performance is, all that. One of them started a company called Gameness. And in Tennessee, he had a great MMA school going. And the other one started a company called On the Mat, OTM, and Built to Fight was another one Scotty did. But he was one of the OGs from he was down in Brazil doing film and slinging VHS tapes and DVDs in the early 90s, right? Right? And he's doing that. He's taking cash in envelopes that comes to his mailbox or checks or whatever. And then he's burning shit and sending it. I mean, it was amazing. So anyway, they're old school, badass motherfuckers. And one of their mothers got cancer. So they went in and they bought a cancer hospital, a Gershon Juice Hospital down Tijuana years ago now. And they do like Coley's enzymes and stuff that'll really irritate your immune system and hype it up. and to fight tumors, and they have great success with it. And people also die. They're with end stage people. They take on worse cases, you know. But it's people that are sick of chemo or chemo is not working for, or they want to do an alternate thing. So anyway, that's their steez. And then as that moves, they have a bunch of friends that are like me, that are like, my shoulders ripped apart, and like all the things that, you know, old athletes get. And so they start at the same time working with cancer patients with stem cells. They start working with athletes, and they start, you know, Rafael Lovato gets his hand fixed, and then he fights for a championship with an elbow that never bent for 2 years before that. And he's got, you know, full mobility. And I've been down there to help me a lot. Eddie Bravo on his back and his shoulders helped him a lot. So there's all these people, and then they start doing long COVID, and they're just there. They're like these guys that are there, and it's called CPI stem cells, or chipsahospital.org is their place. But they have wherever we can help, how can we be helpful? What's your problem? How can we be helpful? My friend Drake Whitestomp, he's with the Zach Brown band, and he had a embolism, or I'm not sure what you call it, in the back of his brain, a bunch of cells that are all wrapped up. And his doctor says, well, we'll just hit him with lasers and they'll mediate after a while. And only like less than 2% of the people ever have problems, and this will be fine. And so he's getting that done. He goes, okay, because he was getting these bad headaches, and it's because he had this mass in the back of his head. And he tours like, you know, 240 dates a year or something like that. He's on the road all the time. He comes back, he's in his hometown, he's playing on stage, and he falls down dead on stage. Right? The thing blows in his head. And I know this because I had that stroke, and he calls me and he goes, hey, how have you been doing? Like, and I'd like to help guys with head injuries and all that, because here's my story. I fell dead on stage. I was 5 minutes away from intensive care unit for brain injuries, and they brought me to life, and they got me to where I was solvent again, and I was able, but I was, you know, in a coma for a while. I was wheelchair bound. And I had plans. He says, I shoot all my own meat. You know, I hunt out of a deer blind up a tree, and I'm arrowing deer and elk, and that's what feeds my family. And I'm going to get my wife pregnant this year, and they're telling me you're not going to walk and all that. And I couldn't accept that. And I just have that kind of mind. And then I met your friends, Scott and Ed, and they said, come down here. And they did stem cell injections in me. And he says, I feel like I'm 25. He goes, my wife's pregnant. I shot 3 deer this year. Like, I'm touring again. And so my point being that I'm down at that same place, and I'm getting treatment, and they're hyperbaric, and I'm with another guy that's getting stem cells. And he goes, man, how great is it that, you know, you're in the film business? You know, you must have awesome insurance. Because everybody in America, that's what you covet, right? If you don't have it, you're like, fuck, I wish I had health insurance.
Yeah.
And I go, I probably got the best health insurance there is in the world. I don't know. And I go, so what? He goes, well, how great is that? That's so cool. What a relief. I go, bro, we're both in Tijuana right now.
Yeah.
Right? That's the help that I have. So I have help if it's helpful to this corporate system that's been set up that now pays our schools, right? They pay who our future doctors will be. They tell them what to think. They fund all the laboratory work. They're not going to fund stuff that doesn't support big pharma, because that's what their business is. It's all, that's where we live.
Sure.
You know, and we're down in Mexico out of pocket to do this thing. Thank God my friends have this hospital. And so, like, the nature of the world we're living in is like, it broadens all my things that have ever been about recovery in any way. It's heightened responsibility. Be aware of the surroundings that you're in. None of it's bad. I'm not here to bitch about it all. I'm here to notice it and go, how can I stay safe and help my friends stay safe regardless, right? It's not that I'm not walking down a bad neighborhood, but I'm going to be careful, and I'm going to be aware of how to do that in the way that's going to get us there safely. And that's the same way with everything in this life. You know, one of my dear old mentors says a victim can never recover. And I think that's true whether you're talking about drug addiction, whether you're talking about brain injury, whether you're talking about cancer. If I'm willing to be a victim of the thing and I just whine, man, I can never get better.
Sure.
You know? But devastating things can happen to me, and I can still keep a mindset where I'm not a victim, and where I can be helpful and I can be useful to my community. And I think that's always goes back to what the answer is where can you serve? How can you embolden yourself to be a helpful integer, and how can you serve?
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, man. I have a question, and it kind of just, you know, you're talking about some of these friends, and you know, I mean, it seems like some of these folks have been in your life for years and years and years, and you go back to this jiu-jitsu mafia.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just kind of part of recovery or changing your lifestyle or whatever it is, but, you know, a few months after you kind of, like, let's just say you get sober. For me, it was recently with alcohol. And I didn't think I was an alcoholic, but the more and more I talk about it, it's like, no, you were an alcoholic. You were just a high-functioning alcoholic. You were doing it really well, probably better than the rest. But regardless of whether it ever affected your family, you know, or your monetary income or things like that, it's like you were still imbibing on a daily basis, you know. And so it's like, just call a spade a spade.
These things
know?
wear a lot of different cloaks.
Yeah.
They look like a lot of different,
But for me in this, you know, again, we'll just call it recovery phase, I started to have to push myself away so I could understand what the hell was going on first with me and my mind, my body, and trying to just get all these other synapses firing again. And shortly thereafter, it's like I started to kind of purposely push people away just for a second because I needed this space. And then I started to, once I got clear-headed and after I started really working out again and really working on myself and questioning almost everything, right? Who you are, you know, are you present in life and all these things. And I started to realize that there was a couple of different categories of friends, you know, and you hear it called day ones, right? You know, you've got those people that, regardless of whether they talk to you every day, if you don't talk to them for 5 years, you pick up exactly where you left off, and both of you are good. It's reciprocal in that way, and you're fine with it. And then you have these friends that they're okay with you pushing them away because they know that you need that space to do whatever you need to do, and they're fine with that. And then you've got those other layer of friends that you start to kind of look at it 30,000 feet down and go, you know what? I don't feel like that was a reciprocal relationship, and not that they weren't a friend or not that they weren't friendly, but I realized that I was giving them joy. I was doing something, whether that was a strength that you have or a character that you bring to a party or whatever the case scenario is, they were getting joy from that. And it wasn't necessarily reciprocal. Looking at it removed from it, it's like, what joy did I get? And it's kind of weird. It's like I feel almost a little bit of shame in identifying those types of friends right now, but I've talked about it a couple of times publicly, and it's one of those things. It's like, you know, the more you shine a light on the little amount of time we have in this life, and you saying that you wake up paralyzed to go to work, and then literally that night, the last thing you go to bed thinking is like, are these two relationships in my life, are they solvent? Are we good? Whatever that bad blood was. But it's like I've realized heavily lately that there's limited time, there's limited space in your brain, and there's limited love that you can provide. Yeah. So I enjoy the fact that getting sober and getting on this path of recovery has given me that light to shine on those friendships. And it's unfortunate. I will never not give that person a hug, but I'm only ever going to, unfortunately, give that person a certain amount of time because I realized that I don't think it was ever a two-way street. I think that I was operating in their lane. And I'm glad that I got to experience that. But I want to spend my time with people that inspire me and people that it's a reciprocal, you know, I get something of value and I give something of value. And those are the relationships that if I have pushed people away, I'm sorry, but I appreciate that you've given me the space to identify these things in my life because, like you said, I was numb. From the time I was 18, I started drinking and partying, and that's all it was. And it's like right now is the first time in my adult life that I think I'm able to like look back at it and internally smile again and be like, I don't need that shit in my life. And holy shit, I am this person. I remember a version of that. Like, God, if I would have had that 25 years of like not just downing it with booze and pills and whatever, you know, not being that person, like what would the memories and the impacts I could have made be? But I appreciate that moment. And I'm just curious, I can't be the only one, right? There's not AA classes and they don't have a 12-step program created because everyone's in a vacuum, right? It's like it works in a gigantic community. And so I can't be the only one that's experienced something. And I'm just curious if you went through something like that where you did realize that there's people that, whether it's unbeknownst to them or not, that they just kind of took from you and they sucked a little bit of your joy away.
I don't know. Maybe. But I'm the fish I got to catch. What they do doesn't matter much to me. I'm not a victim. I'm a participant. And so all that shit about like what somebody took from me, I used to walk around a lot going, if I see that fucking, I'll get even. This isn't balanced. Like,
Yeah.
And then a dude hit me with this. He goes, Tait, I want you to consider that the only people you've got to get even with are folks that have helped you. I'm spending a minute thinking about somebody that wronged me and I got to get even with him. Am I honoring anybody that was so selfless and helped me when I was nothing and didn't deserve any kind of like, who the fuck are you doing? What are you doing, Tait?
Yeah.
And looking at it through that, I just thought, oh, fuck. I had no business. And I was a participant. Nobody had to force me into any of the positions I was in. I was eager. And so when I look at things like that, I don't think about it in ways of like somebody wronged me or I gave him, thank God I gave joy. Thank God. I hope I can do that everywhere. I hope that I can leave the reflection and ripple on people that I was joyful, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? And I don't ever look at getting something. I really don't. I give. And inside of that, my life can flourish. I have my friend Logan. He owns a gym called Duped Gym in LA, right across from Whole Foods in Venice. And this gym here, what you do as a gym owner is you cultivate people. And you cultivate people to be coaches and to be better versions of themselves than they thought you could be. A lot of dumb people think, I'm just going to be a coach and I'm going to learn how to do a deadlift better and how to teach that to somebody. I'm going to learn how to, work within time modalities so that I can get the right metabolic effect for these athletes. And I'm going to, or whatever they think, right? But you're making them be better people. You're developing them into how they can be more useful to their community. And if you're a good coach of coaches, you really give a lot. Now, then you got a team because you need them. It is reciprocal. I need a team. I need these people to be good enough coaches to be able to wear my flag so that I can be proud of them and proud of my product that's coming out, which is the coaching that happens at this place. What's the rule? The people grow. What happens? People leave.
Yeah.
Now they can leave in all kinds of ways. They can leave in ways that are cool. They can leave at 3 a.m. before a class at 5 they're supposed to coach. They can leave all kinds of ways. But they're going to go and I don't own those people. And I don't own the knowledge I gave them. And so then it's heartbreaking because you're the guy that keeps the door open every day to create places where people can go and transcend who they thought they were, whether they're your athletes or people that are aspiring to be coaches. And it's a little heartbreaking. What am I fucking doing here? Another one left. The best I thought yeah. The only thing you have to do then, if you're in that level, that era of your life as a coach of coaches, is never not give your all to the next one that's coming. I'm in the action business, not the results business. Whatever happens with that, whatever.
Yeah.
But I lead with graciousness and kindness and full disclosure of all the stuff that I have so that you can be the best you. And then I try to let that door stay open so that you can go as you'd like. And that, what do I hope? Is that when you look back on me and think about Tait, you're like, fuck, that was a fucking good experience, man.
Yeah.
I'm real grateful for him. Nobody owes us. That's the thing, right? And so what do? We give. And we give and we try to make people better. Why? Because then maybe the fucking whole world gets a little bit better. What can I do about Palestine? What can I do about fucking Iraq? What can I do about, the British steal from fucking everybody and they have imperialism, that they have hooks everywhere and they create divisions in the world where people fight against each other. There's a great line that says, if 2 fish are fighting in the river, the British have passed by, right? That's what they create. They create divisions between brothers, not to shit on England. But it's like, this is what imperialism does. It's humanity. It's a human condition. And so what do? I come back to where my feet are and I go, where can I be helpful right here?
Right here in this.
Because maybe I can't make a difference to all this stuff. You ever hear about the businessman in Mexico? And maybe he's drunk. I don't know. He's up early though. Just before the sun's coming up. And he's just walking down the beach, and there's been a storm the night before, and there's fucking debris all over the beach. It's a mess. And he sees this fucking kid down the way, and he's flailing. And he's fucking reaching down. It looks like he's doing a crazy dance. And he gets closer, and he sees it. The kid's, picking up starfish and throwing them back into the ocean. The businessman, he goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm saving these starfish. Like, isn't it clear? Like, I'm here." And he looks at, and it's littered with them, hundreds of thousands of starfish up and down the beach. And he goes, "You can't make a dent. You can't possibly help them all." And he looks disgruntled up at this older dude, and he grabs another one and he throws it in the ocean. He goes, "It made a difference to that one. And I think that's all we got, We can make a difference to the one in front of us." I never got to be helpful, maybe, I don't know. From my position, I had friends of mine that I wish maybe would have turned their lives. But a couple of them are in prison. A handful of them are dead. Killed by the police, killed by overdose, dead. Handful. Fuck. And I wish I could have made a difference to any of them. But that doesn't mean that I haven't made a difference to other men as I go down the road.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we can do. You salvage life where it meets you. And that's it. And how I curate my mind about that is all about mindset. Chacho shows me that and how he walks every day. I never heard the guy complain one time.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. And it's not like he's just, got rose-colored glasses on. I've seen him knock people out, that are, that needed it. But he leads no matter how much violence has been brought to him in his life. He leads everything with gentleness, and I think that's what we're talking about. It's like, yeah, I need to hold my space and I need to own that and everything. But how I do that is real important. I'll make adjustments to people and how they treat me or whatever, but I hope to do that gracefully. Yeah. I hope to do that dexterously with a way that doesn't leave anybody sour. And sometimes it does, and then I got a way I can make up and I can say, "Hey man, maybe I was overbearing in that way. I was a little brusque."
Sure.
But,
But you came from a place of good intention.
I was protecting my 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Sometimes my 6-year-old acts up and he takes over this body and it ain't good for anybody. And I got to make apologies later,
Damn, that's got me. Yeah. God, I got to feel a little bit, put that in a really, really good way. You know what I mean? It's, you've only got this moment, you've only got this moment, and what those other people have done to you is irrelevant. You've only got this moment.
And they're not them anymore.
Yeah.
Either, no more than I was the me that was 3 hours ago.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I've got to give everybody that allowance. Yeah, I walk forward going, well, historically, he's been like this, so I'm going to be ready for that.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's
go with blinders.
Jesus, with the transitions that have happened in my life, I'm not special. That shit's available to anybody, And the same, that's the hard thing. I look at woundings like when I'm really young, like when I'm a boy, 6 years old, 4 years old. It's a kid done to take beatings. It's a kid done to get hurt like that. And some of those hurts are coming from people that are 2 years or 10 years older than me. So that makes them 14 to 16 years old or 8 years old or something. They're certainly not those people anymore.
Yeah.
But that shit stains me in a way that if I don't address it, it affects every relationship I ever have.
Yeah.
Right? And does blaming help? Does blaming ever take the pain away? Does blaming ever fucking get us down the road anywhere? No, man. And it never cured a goddamn thing. And so what do I have to do is I have to look at things in a new way, and I have to give allowance to people for being new people. Fuck, nobody that's well wants to hurt somebody, right?
Yeah.
Nobody that's not riddled with resentment or fear is acting in a way that I'm objecting to. They're lovely.
Yeah.
Right? It's when I'm fearful or something that I'm unlovely. And so isn't my wish for everybody, not that I hope that motherfucker gets his, but isn't it more like, fuck, I hope they get well, And that's a psychic shift That's a change in my mindset. It benefits me and it benefits you. You know, it benefits everybody involved. I want the best for you. Why? Because that's the best for me.
Yeah.
You know, Einstein said a great quote that I just fucking heard a month or so ago. He goes, the great delusion of humanity is that there's more than one of us. That we're all the same soul having these different experiences. Don't I want the best for my whole soul?
Mm.
You know, it's like my surfer friend, a Buddhist guy, talks about God. And I go, what do you think about God? He goes, I think I'm 100% God. I think you're 100% arrogant.
Yeah.
You know? And he goes, no, man. He goes, I think I'm 100% God, like that wave is 100% ocean. But that wave ain't all the ocean that there is. And that wave doesn't have any power without the rest of the ocean pushing it. He says, I think I'm like 100% God like that. Like I need all these people. Isolation's a disease.
It is.
You know, it's like these mountains up here. I take a rock off that mountain and throw it in the field. It's just a rock. But up on the mountain, it's part of a bigger thing. And I think maybe that's what God is. Maybe that's what, you know, I used to clown all the Christians. You know, what's a Holy Spirit? You know, oh, you have a monotheistic religion and you got Father, Son, Holy Ghost. That sounds like you're schizophrenic, you know? And then I start thinking about what is that Holy Ghost? Maybe that's that line, that soul string that weaves us all together. And maybe in our totality, there's a perfection. And maybe that's where my prayers go. I don't know. But I know that my job is to make me as whole as I can be so that I can be useful in that expression, you know? So I can take the barbs off me because I'm brusque and I fucking, you know, I step on people's toes. I fucking bump into people and I don't mean to because I got ambitions, you know, and all that shit. So I'm constantly going back and going, hey, fuck, I'm sorry if this landed a certain way or whatever, but I keep moving.
At least you're honest about it.
Yeah.
At least you can recognize it.
I mean, sometimes.
I couldn't recognize it.
Sometimes my awareness doesn't come till 30 years later. You wouldn't believe, man, I'm 52 years old and I've been at this a long fucking time. You know, I got a Taoist medicine book that I fucking carry with me that I've had for 30 years that I've been reading this. 30 years, it's beat up. And I'm only just getting it. I'm getting new things all the time. You know, I was never aware of things that had shaped me. I just thought life was like, I went through that, good, got through that, the next thing, that. I had no idea that shit was sticky, that some of those things were what they call nowadays traumas. I had no idea. And then I go through and I do some dire reflection and get real fucking quiet with myself a bunch. And I try to put myself in a position to be receptive. And I start writing and I go, oh my God. And then I go, yeah, if only I would have known that. You couldn't have known it then, Tait. So now my prayer is just, God, let it unfold. I don't know what's
you
best
weren't ready
for me.
to know it back then?
I feel like you don't have the legs to carry it. I feel like I had this queer friend and he was, he killed himself because he was gay, I think, you know, and he was ashamed of it and his family, he felt weird. I don't know if his family felt weird about it or if he felt weird that his family, that maybe he was making things in his head. I don't know which it was, you know, all I know is it troubled him a lot. And I was like, dude, it's not a big, you know, I wanted to talk. I talked to a friend of ours in common, this kind of mentor, and I said, I just want to fucking grab him and go, Robert, it's not a big deal. Everybody knows, like, who cares? Like, fucking, I go, why can't he just be free with it? You know, it's only when you get really drunk you'd talk about it. And he said this to me, and it changed my life. He says, Tait, sometimes if you pull somebody's covers too quick, they die of exposure, right? He's not ready to face that right now. And ultimately, you know, in this world, he hadn't been. I don't know what the next brings for him, but you know, it's a thing I need to be sensitive to. That I'm not the curator of somebody else's health or awareness. I can only be aware when I'm aware. How many times have I heard a thing and I go, how many times I read Marcus Aurelius when I'm 15, right? Fuck yeah, dude. This guy, that's my shit. Like, fuck yeah. And now it's super popular, right? Ryan Holiday pretends it's his book and shit or whatever. You know, you got these guys that are like, here's the remix. And then you're 35 years old and you read that book. Yeah. That's a different book, right? Because you got experience. So maybe I need to walk enough road before I can even be aware of these things. I don't know. I don't know how that magic works, but it's up to different powers than me, you know?
Yeah, it was interesting. We were just talking last night to a friend, kind of a mutual friend, not a mutual friend, sorry, a mutual friend with another acquaintance of mine. And we don't really know each other that well, but I sold him a piece of property. I do real estate. And he just starts talking about that, that, you know, the version of yourself when you were 20 versus the version of yourself when you're 40 and then when you're 50, and how you perceive certain things. And it's like, kind of feel like once you realize the way you were acting when you were 30, when you're 40, you're like, God, that was fucking idiotic. How could I have been that person? You know, and it's like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, yeah, but you weren't this person. You had to be, you had to go through that bullshit. You had to create those opinions. You had to deal with whatever that hardship was.
So what's the takeaway, right?
You got to walk a road sometimes. I don't think you're ready.
I'm shooting
like you
at
said.
different baskets at different times in my life. I'm in different parts of my development. I'm curating different skill sets at different times, right? And then for what that takeaway is, it landed on me, I don't know, you know, a decade ago or something, where I go, you've been wrong, very wrong, about shit you stood on 10 years ago, right? Fuck, this is the hill I'll die on, man. Fuck, this is what it is. This is right, whatever, right? I didn't know it was just an eroding old idea. And so I can look back on that and go, the folly of youth, you know, how wrong I was, right?
Sure.
But if that's true, what else is true? That everything that I stand on right now, I gotta go, I could be wrong.
Yeah, history repeats itself.
Right? And so I hold on loosely to these things that I know, right? Because this shit, it's trickier than I think, you know? There's not a lot of knowing. Yeah. There's a lot of exploring. And I'd rather explore than know. A friend of mine, I was asking him, I go, what's the right answer? What's the answer to this? We're studying this book. What do you think this is? You fucking know a lot. You're 70. He goes, oh, he looked at me like I'm retarded. Oh, kid. He says, I stopped having answers a long time ago. He goes, every time I got answers, I got ground I got to defend. Somebody's trying to push on this or that. He says, I got questions, the whole world opens up. People are a lot nicer to me. And that's the way he looked at life, you know? And I thought, there's a fucking lot in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the second phase of that conversation with this guy. It was just, you know, I don't understand why you have to have a hill that you're ready to die on.
Yeah.
I don't understand it anymore. As a 20-year-old, I'm ready. Yep. I'm ready. I'm going to defend it.
There's only a couple things that I care about anymore. And it's like I understand predation. I understand the animal world. I understand combat. I understand these things. But the predation I'm speaking of is like being a predator to weaker people or to try to take advantage of. That's a thing I don't fuck with. I can't fuck with you at all.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you transgress and can't say that you were wrong or explore that possibility, we live in different realities.
Yeah.
And I can't fuck with you. And it seems soft, but it's like, it's such a those are the two things anymore. It's like, when do I block somebody's number or when? It's like it never comes up unless one of those things is operable. Sure. I don't want any part of that because it's dangerous. It's dangerous to people won't explore that they're wrong.
Sure.
It's dangerous to have people that are willing to harm other people that are near you, right? Mm-hmm. I used to hear it all the time with guys and they would fucking say the dumbest shit, you know? And I go, that dude he fucking raped Dave's sister. And then more often than not, 9 out of 10 guys will go, he's always been cool to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that kind of shit, I can't fuck with not any of you 9 guys, nor this guy. Like I got nothing to do with none of that. It's like, you know, character matters and it's like how we carry ourselves is important. And if I'm standing next to you and somebody mistakes us for being alike and you're of that kind, shame on me for where I'm standing, you know?
Yeah. And I think you got to take onus in it. You know, when somebody does bring that shit to your attention, it's way easier for most people to go, well, he's cool to me. He's always been great with me.
So bad. People are, of course, cool to me.
It doesn't refuse the fact that what happened over here is fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, you need to take onus and admit that that's fucked up.
And I'm a gorilla.
Yeah.
Like, of course, the people are cool to me for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they're going to be cool to the waiter or that they're not going to fucking try to sex play this fucking young waitress or whatever the thing is that's happening. Like, I don't want any part of it, man.
Yeah.
You know, and also it's like, as an older dude, you're training people by just how you behave.
Yeah.
So how you sit and perform and walk through the world, it fucking matters. You know, I used to live under that delusion too. I'm not hurting anybody but myself. What a horrible lie that is to tell oneself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, you look at the ripples that are out there, especially the more and more you get down the road. I mean, early on, my family, my sister, the people closest to me, I'm fucking hurting terribly because what I didn't know. I didn't know what the definition of being a friend was. I didn't know the number one most important rule to being a friend, that is I take care of myself to the best of my ability so that my friends don't worry on me needlessly.
Mm.
I had no idea, you know? Yeah, life, man. New growth every day.
It is crazy, man. You know, you got to cherish it. It's weird. And it's like, I'm capably able in my brain to be thankful that I'm on the path and that I get to work on the process every single day anymore. And that's a weird deal. And I'm not out here on Instagram trying to hoorah, like, be grateful for every moment. Yeah, we all go through shit.
Don't happen on Instagram.
You know? And it's like,
yep.
You know, I know that every day is not easy for everybody, but at least you got an opportunity to correct it. You know, I do want to say one thing about the coach situation, and I don't mean coach in a, you know, like at your gym or something like that, but, you know, like a kind of like a motivational speaker coach thing. And that is one of the things that I don't necessarily agree with it, but just to kind of add what you were saying is I'm fearful for other people of it, because I think that unfortunately it tackles two things at the same time, which you hit on. I think it attacks people sometimes at their weakest moment when they're down and out and they're so focused on the future, or they're just reminded constantly of the past and they don't know where they're going. They're not comfortable in their own space, you know, and they go into these things and you've got these people that are just parading around and maybe they're a charlatan or maybe they actually have some real value, but the way that they're presenting it is hidden behind gigantic amounts of money and taking advantage of somebody in that sense, I feel like is just wrong. And I know that maybe it's not always put together in that package of like, you know, they're not taking advantage of somebody, but I just, that's a thing that I do fear that people are taking advantage of.
Of course
in
they
that
are.
situation.
And in all situations, it's available. And I think there's things that are in this. I mean, we got to define truth, I guess, if we're going to talk about truth, but there's things that are more true than others. That is what I was going to say. And one of the things is, you know, consider the source. You know, I've got to consider the source from whence it comes. There's a guy, and I forget his name, but he made a girl with this great big ass really, really famous. And he got really famous, and Rich is like, here's how you flip it. Here's how you do it. And I can't think of his name at all, but he rented a house in Bel Air or somewhere and rented a couple of Lamborghinis. And he just did a lot of video footage and little self-help talks or whatever around the campus of this house that he rented for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And he blew up. And it's like a Jay Shetty or like all these guys that, you know, they'll reiterate things as if they're their own ideas, and they're doing good. They're great ideas or whatever. They maybe don't have experience to talk about it. It's like a lot of it, you can see the flaws in it if you've been down the road a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reticent to even say anybody's name. I'm sorry I did that. But it's like, if I am duped into believing that because I see something shiny, that's valuable, I'm a fool. And so, yeah, there's people being duped. But the thing is don't be a fool.
Yeah, don't be a fool.
You know what I mean? And there's things that have value, and there's things that have shine, you know? And to not be able to discern is dangerous. And you ought to know that in the world. And now we're from the skin world. And so you knew those things in a different way then. Well, now I can show you a Lamborghini and a bunch of flash on an Instagram, and it's titillating to some kind of way, right? This untouchable thing, this, whoa, God, and he must really have it. And all the assumptions that the person that's posting that is hoping that we see. Yeah. Well, it's just the new world of the same kind of bullshit that we've seen before of, you know, whether it's Ivan Boesky or whether it's, you know, the latest guy with the Ponzi scheme. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Let me show you something that's unreal.
Yeah.
Well, what did your dad tell you when you're young? It seems too good to be true. It probably is, right? And then we go, no, there's a new world. It's digitized. It's AI. It's like, if it's too good to be true, it probably, you look at AI and what that is. Well, we got technology, like I said, that is beating us up before we could get advocacy. My thing in the film world right now where they have the big bitch about AI and the writers were striking and now the actors are still striking. It's like people don't have any idea what that's about, but it's like it's a twofold thing for me. Is like I look at I was scanned on Jurassic World. Right? They do a body scan on me, just 1,000 cameras that all take a picture of you at the same time while you spin around. And they go, yeah, we can draw this in, with our computer guys, and you can put it in, and you can be in the backdrop, running from a dinosaur or whatever the thing is. Cool, whatever. I'm just on the job. You know what I mean? And you're taking footage of me. Cool. You own the footage because you've taken it. Right? 2 years later, I'm in Rockstar Games, Grand Theft Auto, as a special character that you can make in the back. That's not Tait. I don't have any acknowledgement. I don't have any money. Just got some guys that are down in Silicon Valley that are writing the game and that go, wow, he's cool. And oh, he's bodyguarding Joe. And they do a whole Joe DMT trip thing, but they don't mention Joe. They show the Comedy Store. It's just everything but us, right? Yeah. No acknowledgement, no advocacy. So technology has moved faster than advocacy can catch up to take care of the little people. Mm-hmm. And then I'm in Red Dead Redemption 3 as one of the special characters you fight. Again, and so in this thing, AI has, people are like, why are they bitching about this? Why is this going on right now? Because technologically, we're moving so much faster than you can have actual advocacy for humanity. Now, that might not look like anything to anybody, but what it is it means there's no precedent. Yeah. And if I'm not the precedent that's set, then what can happen? You as an inspiring musician, fighter, whatever, that we're only going to show in digital time. Well, Nabisco, if you can't trademark yourself in your voice, and Universal can, because you're just, I'll just trademark all these guys. So what's that called? It's ownership without payment. Yeah. Which is called slavery.
Fucking A.
And so that's where all of this is going for everybody that nobody understands.
So when they scan your body, though, are they, you say that like obviously there's no royalties. If they reuse that scan, is there royalties that come from that? Were you paid at that moment? They're considering that?
I'm paid on the day to do this job, and they didn't know how that was going to get used later until technology. I don't think it was a nefarious thing from the beginning.
Sure.
I think that they're opportunists.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we have all this footage from all these athletic men. Let's use it for we can do. We don't have to pay anybody to make these video games anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's like that. And then I think the second part of it is why wouldn't they want to show how many streams they have and what royalties would be so they could pay us correctly? Because ever since television, when royalties come out and you can get residuals, on television we get paid really well. Well, television starts to go away. Now, VCR tapes come up. They go, we're not sure there could be theft. We're not sure how to. So SAG, who is on our side, right? I say that with a smile and everything because they're all the same people that own the motion picture industry and all the studios. They all go to lunch together. It's the same fucking people. And so they pretend to have an argument with each other. So I don't know what their end is, but the thing is about them not wanting to show what their streams are has not so much to do with how cheap they are. And so then VCRs go to DVDs. They go, this is even worse. And so our residuals get cut more. And so they pay people less and less as the decades go on. And as technology makes it so they can make more and more money. They don't have to advertise in the same way they did. They're just streaming now. And they're like, streaming, we don't know. Like that could be crazy. people could just steal from us well, now we know there's not one stroke of your keypad on the internet that goes unnoticed.
Sure.
And it's 100%.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't they pay us this little bit that's less than 0.1% of their profit margin?
Yeah.
My question would be, is it a case of too big to fail like the banks or the automotive industry where if I showed you what those streams were and I'm a publicly traded company that has to satisfy my stockholders and I'm lying to you about my numbers and my fraud, do I go to prison?
Sure.
And I think that's where Netflix, Disney, I think that's where all of them are.
Yeah.
I think that's the game that they're pretending that they're not playing.
Sure. So, how is that affecting you
We don't work.
You don't work at all?
No, we make our own movies and then we do independent stuff.
Okay.
And so we take our agency back. And
gotcha. I was going to say, you take it back into your
it has to be that
pool.
way, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, who was it? It was one of Jay-Z's producers, right? That put out a song on his Instagram, and it is Jay-Z, and it sounds like his lyrics, but it's all AI. It's AI written, and it's AI voice. And he goes, what does this mean about who is it that gets paid for this? Who owns this?
Sure.
You're owning a guy's likeness. You're owning it like all the way through. There's no answer to that question. But that's the thing that exists, where machines can mimic people that we already know that have made themselves famous and sell them without giving any recompense to the person that, that's enslavement.
Yeah.
That's insane. And so that's kind of where it is. And so we'll see where the fight goes. But, at the same point, are you people are like, how are you doing? I can't be a victim of that. I got to go forward with my life, and I got to build other things and create other creative aspects. And I got to be where I am and help the folks that I'm around and all that shit. It can't bother me that much, I knew a long time ago, I grew up in Michigan, and, as soon as the UAW had so much trouble and everybody's stealing, even in SAG, we know that they take from our pension, right? So we know that by the time I fucking retire, there won't be a pension because they're shady. Everybody's shady. And the UAW, they spent their pension. They said, hey, we're not really owing you that.
Sure.
This is money that guys have paid in for 30 years. Mm-hmm. It's insane. So I go, nobody's coming to save you. I've known that since I'm 9 years old. So I moved that way since I'm 9 years old,
When you kind of first got, well, maybe not necessarily at from the Master P film, that seems like there was a little bit of time, but when you kind of first got into it, because like my fear, and it's weird, like this is a know nothing podcast, right? This is the tiniest thing on the world, but I'm like I've had a couple of people approach me like even about sponsorships, and I'm like, I'm good. I don't need your money right this second. Like, yeah, does it cost me money? Would it be nice to pay for it? Absolutely. But and it's not that like I'm too good for the money. It's that like I don't know how to deal with any of that shit. Mm-hmm. And I've ran businesses but when I have an electrical company and I'm running 30 guys and I do, like that's what I did for 20 years in a previous life. I know how to handle that. I know how to bill it. I know how to do the job and how to this. But like this other world, and it was strange. And like I follow Theo Vaughn, and he had that post the other day about however that money was distributed into these like big pools of sponsorship, right? And then they do pre-ads for
right.
And I was so glad that whatever he did in his negotiation realm allowed him the freedom to call a spade.
Right.
And he called that gentleman out, and it was like, you're a fucking thief.
Yep.
And he called him by name multiple times and put his picture up. Yep. And that kind of shit to go, man, all right, if these people could take advantage of a person who has a great reputation and a name in that industry, in the podcast community, the comedy community.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah. If they can be taken advantage of, holy fuck.
What do we know so when YouTube happened? You were alive before YouTube.
Yep.
Right? It's like, and what I knew then, because I used to sell dope. Mm-hmm. Like I know if I'm beholden to somebody that they own me.
Yeah.
I know that I only got one source, that I'm fucked. Because he can bend me. Like I need to have multiple sources, right? I just know this is business. And I know that if YouTube owns I will go, why would I put a video on YouTube? And they're like, money, and it makes sense. Like I'm the idiot that will cut my nose off to spite my face. But I'm like, at a certain point, they own my stuff. Why wouldn't I have my own video that I could put on my website that I own, that's me, that's trafficked there? And, it's the same reason you use Amazon, because you get distribution.
Yeah. You get put out to the masses.
Well, but what does that cost you?
Yeah.
It costs you yourself, because they own that content now. What does it cost you when you post on Facebook or Instagram? They own all your baby pictures. Mm-hmm. They own all your DMs. They could make those public if they want, let that fucking shiver through you. It's like all of the things that are out there, they own. You don't have agency. Mm-hmm. And so when that happened for Joe and they started censoring him, it's like, of course they do. and they think they're the only game in town. Thank God Joe was big enough to be able to transcend that.
Yeah, that's.
But like that's where we all need to go. Is like, how can I be big enough to be able to transcend the bullshit that is prevalent? Of course they play these games. You know, of course they do.
Yeah, but and say this how you want to say this. I'll ask this, but granted, Joe was the biggest podcast in the world, but did he trade one hat for another hat? Because
we'll see.
I don't know what his contract looks like. Who knows?
We'll see.
You know,
but I know that all along the line, those people that wanted to host him say, "Well, you can talk about this," and that's Joe's line where he's like, "I will never not say something if I want to say it, or say something because you say I should."
Yeah.
To Theo's thing, why is Theo in that position? Because it looks like a great deal.
Yeah.
Because a guy's telling me he's going to do all the work that I have to do instead of me doing it. Well, what does that look like? Looks like a participant that wanted to do less work.
Mm-hmm.
Not to shit on anybody in that, except that's what I'm trading.
Yeah.
And so is it better for me? Does it behoove me to have, if I don't want to do it, to have a guy that I go, I'll give you 10% for any sponsorship nut that you crack. And they know this is the deal for what I'm offering and this is what I'm not offering. And then we're all in a fucking clear agreement.
Yeah.
But when you go, let's get Chris D'Elia and the Baker Boys and the fucking, father and son podcast and everybody all together, because you guys are all kind of in the same round. Well, I know Kreischer and Segura don't do that with two bears. Like they're like, fucking, why would we do that?
Yeah.
Why would we do that? And so that's the thing is if I ever want to make things easier for myself, I should look at whose hand's in my pocket, right? If a guy's telling me he's going to make my life easier, do I know how to do that job that he's offering to do as well as he does so I can see how he's stealing from me? Because that's going to become the eventuality of it, right? And I knew that since I'm a little kid. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that, but the fucking deal looks so good that of course I want to do that. Of course I want to suckle on the tit of high fructose corn syrup for nothing.
Sure.
You know? Well, I'm sorry, but there's a cost to it, you know? Dude told me a long time ago, he goes, you can do whatever you want in this life, Tate, as long as you're willing to pay the price. And you better know what the price is.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, people are devious. People are unscrupulous. Even the smartest people around, when you're like, I'm afraid of these coaches are going to dupe people. Mm-hmm. One of the smartest guys I know is Theo. Yeah. Like all the guys that are in that conglomerate of that pool together. Mm-hmm. They're all bright fucking people. And they all got taken. Yeah. You know? It's a buyer beware. Pirate your life back. These motherfuckers are not here to help you. People coming to say they're going to help you, be very careful.
Yeah.
Be very careful.
Even in the smallest ways.
In the smallest ways. You know? I don't know how I can't help anybody. All I can say is like, hey, here's the road I walked. This stuff helped me. Might help you. I don't know.
Yeah. Do your thing.
That's for fun and for free. Like, I don't, there's no commerce in that. You put commerce in anything, it takes the spirit out of it a little bit. It
does,
you know?
Yeah. Chacho's got a good story about that.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get onto a person's podcast. And the guy canceled on me like last minute. Sucked. I drove to Denver for no fucking reason, but it is what it is. And I call him. I'm like, man, this was kind of some bullshit. And he's like, here's the deal. Here's this story. And he's like, he had a really good deal. And I mean, obviously Chacho's a brand builder. He knows how to do it. And it was just like, it was like a charge. Like, I'll charge you to come in. I was like, hold on. I was like, back up there. Like, I was like, wait a second. So he wanted to pick he wanted you basically to work for him, build out his brands, but then he wanted to charge you to put you onto his platform that you were going to be building. I was like, that's fucking double dipping if I've ever heard it, man. Yep. I was like, this guy's a snake.
I know these guys. I know a guy that's a real snake that's out there dying to say his name. But he'll pay $50,000 to be on a podcast. He'll pay the people that I know tell him to kick rocks because they don't play that game. But that's a common way that a lot of these people are out there.
Oh yeah, but you can read right through that with a conversation.
Sure.
You know? I mean, and if anybody's good, like, they obviously don't publicize the fact, but like, I think I've seen certain, let's maybe not call it Theo, maybe not call it Joe, but anyways, in that realm, we all know who they are. I think they've had guests on purpose but they're really great at playing that game. They're really great at making somebody look foolish when they think that they're not looking foolish. Right. And you can see right through it from an audience member. You're going, this guy's a fucking joke. Right. You know? And so, yeah, I mean, to want to be on
one is that Sanjay Gupta, the guy for CNN that went on Joe's, was hilarious. Like how it's amazing that he's even a medical doctor, let alone that he has a job. It was foolishness. And the other's a guy I can't name.
Yeah.
But those are the two that I know that just seemed weird to me, that I was like, Yeah, there is. It's all out there, man.
Yeah. When are you going to start doing your podcast again?
I don't know.
What's up?
I'm running right now. Like I go to Nashville tomorrow. I'll be back Monday, and then I go to Dallas on the next weekend, and then the week after that, I go see my dad. Then I'll be back on the 19th, and then I'll go to England for a thing out there. But before I do that, we'll start filming. We're doing a bunch of prep work for Keith's film. And then from England, I'll go right to South Carolina and film this little serial killer thing me and Corey DeMeyers are doing. And then I'll come back here and film with Keith until Christmas probably. And all of that is so absorptive right now, and I don't have a space to set up in and do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I haven't, I know there's like a bunch of great AI technology that's out there now that you can do this with, and it pulls clips for you and it does all the things, And
Man, we try.
but again, and that is buyer beware.
Yeah.
Be careful of who makes it easy for you, because God knows what you're getting. And so I'm just, until I can really service it in the way I want to, time wise, I'm not in a hurry. Although it's one of the things that I enjoy doing the most. But I want to make it easy. I want to have this in my house where I can come in. I can call a kid that comes over and turns on the shit, and then he goes, oh, this was interesting. I'll pull this out, and he has minutes to work. I want it to be like that.
Yeah, it's got to be in person, man. Go to
I
it.
like that a lot.
Like the Riverside thing, we started that, and it's
that's
just
the one
like,
they were saying. That's what they were saying.
It's convenient, which is great,
Yep.
right? But it takes. It takes the introductory, out of it. Like it takes me and you shaking a hand.
Yeah.
It takes me knowing what you smell like. It takes me hearing the actual timbre of your voice in this room.
Yeah.
It takes all that out of it.
Yeah.
It takes if you get mad at me in the conversation, and how I react to that. Like if we got glitches over a Zoom, yeah, man, it's got to be in person. As a small podcast, it's kind of hurtful to your ability to get guests on and things like that, which is, but I think that it was a risk that I was
and also depending
worth
where
taking.
you live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're traveling right now for this. It's like, I'm not in LA.
Yeah.
I'm not in Austin, which is one of the two places that I would be to be able to draw on most of the guests that I'd like to get,
Yeah.
I mean, after I exhaust the 100 that are here, it's like that. It's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But sooner, I let it unfold and see what comes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Tait, man, I appreciate your time. Honestly, thank you for being open, and I appreciate you letting me talk to you, chop it up.
Thank you,
bit,
man. It's been great. It's great to meet you in person. Thank you.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.